Halacha base. Benoyach she'ovad avodah zorah harizeh chayiv. Benoyach who did avodah zorah, he's liable for death penalty, because that's the penalty for every one of the mitzvahs of Benoyach, and that's the first of the 7 mitzvahs. He has to do it in the way that is customary to do so. And any idol worship that a bezin of Yisrael would cause Yisrael who did served it, Chaz v'sholom, Benoyach ner HaGodol, Benoyach is killed. Anything that a bezin of Yisrael does not cause death penalty, and Benoyach ner HaGodol, Benoyach is not killed for it. Even though he's not killed, it's forbidden, and we don't permit them to set up a matzeva for idols, or set aside a tree for idol worship. Not to make any pictures or even others of that nature for beauty. Mishnah cites a Bryce in Sanhedrin 56b. The avoiders, the bezin of Yisrael, kill on it. Benoyach is warned about them. Ein bezin shel Yisrael, if bezin Yisrael did not kill a Jew for doing so, the Benoyach is not forbidden. Purpose, such as to hug or to kiss a idol, even though it's forbidden, the bezin Yisrael did not kill for that, if a Jew would do so. Therefore, Benoyach is not killed either. The Gemara explains the bezin Yisrael did not kill for hugging and kissing, only when that's not the way that you serve the worship, and therefore Benoyach is not killed for that. Rebbe brings the conclusion of the Gemara in 57a. Avuna Abiuda and all Talmidei Rav said on the 7 mitzvahs of Benoyach, if they transgress it, they are liable to death penalty. And what we find in the Brisa, that Benoyach is commanded regarding them, it means they are warned that, and that's enough, that they are liable to death penalty when they transgress. But a goy who does it in an action that is not the way to do it is not killed. In Hilchos in Perek Gimel, the Rambam says specifically which services Bezdin of Yisrael kill a Jew for, and therefore Benoyach would be liable for death penalty. And he has to do with the way it's done. There are 4 services that are done in the Mikdash, L'Avdil Shem Hashem. If you do them not the way by Avodah Zorah, you do the same thing for an idol. You find Sanhedrin 16b, and that means slaughtering, or incense, or pouring wine, or bowing. Those 4 items apply to Avodah Zorah even if it's not customary. And also, if somebody sprays the blood of an offering before them, if it's not the way that it's usually done, Bezin Yisrael would kill a Jew. Benoyach would therefore be liable for it, as it's found in Hilchos Chinuch in Mitzvah 26. Avodah Zorah b'shituf. It's forbidden for Yisrael to believe in Avodah Zorah in any shape, fashion, or form, and even as an adjunct to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachol. And the Lashon Rambam says in Avodah Zorah, the Bezin Yisrael kill. Benoyach is also killed for that. You find that Benoyach is even for having as an adjunct to believing in God. Now there are those who are of the opinion, like Tosfos and Bukhari's 2b, that Benoyach is not commanded Avodah Zorah if he believes in God, even though he cannot. One of the commandments is not to serve Avodah Zorah, but that's only if that's the sole deity of the non-Jew. The Pesach Tshuva in Yesodei 147 cites a few opinions that Benoyach is forbidden to believe in another deity as well, and he says that those who say that it's a mitzvah that it's forbidden, that they are commanded. The question is whether they will be killed for it. By Cheda Egel, Klal Yisrael said, Eile Elohecha Yisrael, these are your gods, in plural, who have brought you up. And since it says in plural, you say, in the Gemara says in Sanhedrin 63a, had they said, this is your God, then they would have had to be destroyed, because, as Rashi explains, since they didn't deny God, they just added the Egel, therefore they were not liable for death penalty. The night of Yehuda, in Shuvah's, we find the Shuvah of his son, Hagoyim Shmuel Segel, recites that the question proved this, even though the Goy is not forbidden, is not warned about having another deity, Shitu, for partnering someone with God. He can be our agent to forbid everything that's in Eretz Yisrael, even though Eretz Yisrael belongs to Klal Yisrael. That's why the trees in Eretz Yisrael, even though they're part of the ground, were forbidden. Son of the Naidi Yehuda argues, I tried to find a source that Maimonides am not commanded not to have two gods. I didn't find this in the Bible of Yerushalmi nor in the early commentaries. The Rambam should have brought it here in Hilchos Melochim. And he proves that there's no difference between a goy and a Yisrael, and this is a brisa, Sanhedrin 56b, that anything that a Yisrael would be killed for having served idols, whether it's solely or in conjunction, would be, a goy would also die. And why do we say that a goy is not warned against serving two gods? Is a mistake in the Tosfos in Peirush B2. He wants to write that people used to be partners with goyim in business, even though that they would have to at times swear with regard to the idol, and it says the name of another god shall not be mentioned, shall not be heard on your mouth. And we learn in Peirush B2, 2b, that you shouldn't cause somebody should swear in the name of an idol, and therefore it's permitted because like when with the Christians, it's called holy, and Kochim we find Kedesha. The idea that the word Kochim Kedesha is also used for a prostitute. And Tosfos adds that in a situation where he has the Shem Hashem with something else, there's no forbiddenness on placing before a blind person a stumbling block, because B'nai Noach were not commanded in regard to this, and according to us, we don't find, according to this, we do not find a forbiddenness by goyim if they have use the name of their gods in partnership with believing in Hashem. The Remo in Orach Chaim 156 cites, there are those who are lenient with regard to a goy, where a goy uses the deity that he believes in together with God's name, and we don't say that he's transgressing on before a blind person do not place a stumbling block. And the Ramah, they thought he meant to say that they're not warned about having dual deities or two partners in deities. And this made them a mistake by many wise people, but really Tosfos in the Ramah means if you use the name of God together in an oath, you do not serve the Avodah literally. He doesn't say, "You are my God." He mentions him in the oath, and even though it's forbidden, because it says you should only chapter 6, verse 13, you can only swear by God's name. Still, that's only for Yisrael. As we find Hilchos and Goyim are not required to only use God's name. But serving actual idol worship, even if it's done in a belief that they're of God as well, there's no difference between a Jew and a Goy. And just like Bezdin Yisrael kill a Jew if he would do so, so a Goy, if he would have he would partner someone with God, would be liable to the death penalty. The Pesach Tshuva says that the das of the Pri Megodim, Sha'ar Ephraim, the Tzedakah, that it states that when Noach is killed for Avodah Zorah, but the Mishnah's Chachomim, Yesodei HaTorah says that the Goyim Rabbi Shaya Berlin Breslava cites later commentaries that disagree, and he brings that this is the opinion of the Rambam. The Darkei Tshuva, the Minkacher, cites in Oilus Tomid, or Chaim 156, that the Rambam says that Ben Noach is not commanded regarding having dual deity, is only when he recognizes God as being the uppermost God, and they don't disagree with that. But and they just assume that they have to go through a medium between God themselves and God. But if they say that God has no oneness to himself, and or they're equal, even the Ramah would agree that they're forbidden. Machzah Shekel cites those who say that even when they say one is above the other, like those who believe in the Trinity, or those nations that believe in there are different levels, Ben Noach is equal to Yisrael, and he's forbidden to do so. Now, the belief of the Christians and the Ishmaelim, chapter 9, Halacha 4, he writes that the Christians serve Avodah Zorah, and Sunday is their holiday, because he's of the opinion that Avodah Zorah is like the Trinity of the Christians, and Meir is liable to the death penalty for it. And therefore, in Milchos Malchus Asurais, the laws dealing with forbidden foods, he writes that the Muslims believe in Islam, since they do not serve idols, their wine is forbidden to be drunken, but you can benefit from it. And all the Goyim said the same. But the Christians, they serve idols, therefore their wine is forbidden to be benefited from. From fear of the censor, he took out from Melochim 11:4 and the old Rambams, and the whole idea of the Christian, and of this Arab who came after them, Muhammad, is only to straighten out the way for Mashiach and to prepare the world to serve Hashem. How? The world was, everyone knows about Mashiach, and in the Torah and the Rebbe, even the Christians discuss it, and but they say that these mitzvahs, they are true, but they were nullified. And the others say that it's not simple. Mashiach already came, and they show that such as do the Christians. The Rambam discusses the Christians as they're preparing the way for Mashiach, because therefore it's different than the rest of the world who believe in simple idol worship, but still they are considered idol worshippers. And even though it's not forbidden, if they don't get killed for it, it's still forbidden, as we find in Milchos Chinuch. Milchos Chinuch writes, the Rambam, there are other things that are forbidden to Ben Noach, and he's not killed on them. From the Kabbalah and from Shmuel, we learned that Yinecha are forbidden in mixing species of animals or trees, but they aren't killed for that. And the Goy strikes a Jew, even if he just battered him, didn't kill him, he's liable for death, but don't kill him. Because the Mishnah explains only on the 7 mitzvahs by Noach is he killed for them, and even though they're forbidden to mix species, they're not killed for it. The Goy struck a Jew, liable for heavenly punishment of death, but he's not killed in Besdin. The Rambam adds, a Goy who dealt with Torah is liable to death. A Goy who kept Shabbos, even a different day than Shabbos, is liable to death penalty. He concludes, we tell him he's liable, but he is not killed actually. To be in Shloimeh explains that somebody serves the Avodah Zarah not in the way it's usually done, since the Torah told us only on 7 mitzvahs that we learn from the Pasuk when Noach is killed, like the Ravaz, since it's forbidden, Avodah Zarah Shloi Kedarko, is found from Vayikra, chapter 20, verse 2. Every person who shall give from his seed to the Moelach, which is Avodah Zarah, even though the Pasuk adds Ben Noach, that he's commanded just like Yisrael on Avodah Zarah, even if it's not the natural way of doing it. Because Yisrael is not killed when he does it not the way it's naturally done, therefore Goy is not killed either. And we don't permit him to set up a matzeva, which is a place an altar. The HaMeir questions, since the Ben Noach isn't warned on it, how do I know he's forbidden? He cites a brisa, he's not warned on it. He cites that the Rambam codifies the Halacha, he's not killed on it. And he argues, if he's not warned, maybe he's not forbidden. Why do you say he's not killed? Even though usually the warning is the death penalty, the Orach Laner cites from Sanhedrin that a Goy that served Avodah Zarah did not bow to it, he's liable and he's killed. It must be. It says in the Brisa that Noach is not commanded on Avodah, which is not natural, comes to tell us that he's not forbidden to a Goy. Because Yisrael does it not the way it is supposed to be done, is only a forbiddenness, lav, a negative commandment. It's not a liability of death. Therefore, for the Goy, it's not forbidden even as a negative commandment, and it's permitted for him to do it. Now the Brisa comes to teach us that doing Avodah Zarah is permitted to a Goy, and those who forbid to a Goy to do Avodah Zarah are of the opinion that if he serves a Shaloi Kedarko, he is killed. And since the Gemara does not codify the Halacha whether a Goy is liable on doing Avodah Zarah, it's not shaykh to say the Halacha whether he's killed when he does it not in the natural way that the others do it, because it doesn't say who disagrees. Therefore, the Rambam codifies the Halacha out of doubt. Ben Noach would not die on doing Avodah Zarah, making an idol or serving it not in the fashion that it is normally served. That you don't kill out of doubt, but out of doubt we are stringent, and therefore he says that both are forbidden. He says that they're not killed, and that is not commanded, because we don't know what he's forbidden with. We don't permit them again to establish this matzeva, which is a 1-stone altar. The Meaning Shloimeh cites in Sanhedrin, where the Rambam, according to the Rambam, Ben Noach is liable when he makes it, or only when he serves it. He doesn't explain his the opinion, and he infers from what he writes that if he serves it, he's liable. It would seem only if he actually goes ahead and serves it. And so he also infers from what it says that Bezdin of Yisrael would not kill a Jew for it, a Goy is not killed for it, and from making Avodah Zarah, Yisrael will not be killed. And even though the Rambam writes that only hugging and kissing is considered doing it not in the normal way, the Goy would not be killed for it, there could be that you can include within that also making the Avodah Zorah. The Rambam just mentioned the language of the Brisa. Then the Gemara Rebbe explains that the Brisa is talking about that even by making Avodah Zorah, Ben Noach is not chayav on it, because Yisrael, you would not be killed for making the idol. You don't let them set up a one-stone altar, nor plant a tree for Avodah Zorah. The Rebbe infers, but he doesn't say that a goy is forbidden to do so. That he's discussing our obligations. When we are in charge, we are commanded not to permit them to do so. And a goy himself is included in this when he says that any Avodah Zorah that Bezdin of Yisrael were not killed for, Ben Noach are not killed for either. And even though he's not liable for the death penalty, it is still forbidden. Perek Ches. The Halacha is a city that came to peace with Yisrael, we learned, and we do not make a covenant with them until they shall deny their idols, and they'll destroy all the places that they were worshipped. And just as he says here, we don't leave them to have it if we are in charge, to make even an altar or a tree, plant a tree, because this is all when Jews are in charge and able to do so. The HaMeir points out, how do I know that it's forbidden for a goy to make a tzura and others of that nature for beauty? I mean, Shlomo, the judge, discusses what's the intent. Where do we learn this from? He says that the intent is in Hilchos Avodah Zorah, 3rd chapter, 10th Halacha. It's forbidden to make any items of beauty, even though it's not an idol. As it says in Shmois 20, verse 20, you should not make with me gods of silver or gods of gold. This means forms out of gold or silver for beauty, so people shouldn't think that they are to be served. And he specifies that the forbiddenness is for a Jew to do it for beauty is by regarding if it looks like a person or like the sun or the moon or the stars or the signs, the astrological signs, or angels, but of animals and wild animals is permitted even for Yisrael to make such a picture. So the question, so we don't find Melochim is commanded in this regard. Therefore, the Rambam says that Yisrael is forbidden for them to make any of these forms that are forbidden to Yisrael when we are in charge. And we learn it from a logic. He says that people shouldn't make a mistake that they're serving idols. And since the Torah forbade Yisrael, it's probably to keep it goy from doing it, we have to be fearful because a goy is liable to actually serve it. And we adds, it would seem that the forbiddenness is rabbinical, and we don't find it as a Torah for a goy or for Yisrael to keep a goy from making such forms for beauty. The Meres Chinuch is of the opinion that this law is only by Yisrael, and he infers this from the Chinuch that he doesn't write that everyone is commanded to not make idols or statues. The Meres Chinuch says there's been a Torah. You can't say that the Rabbanan forbade on a Ben Noach. As the Lechem Mishnah points out in the Melochim, chapter 10, Halacha Tes, we find the Bnei Noach are also commanded by the Rabbanan not to do. The Meres Chinuch learns that the Rambam, according to the Rambam, there's no forbiddenness when Klal Yisrael is in charge from leaving a goy to make these statues, but that for goy himself it's forbidden to do it, and therefore he explains that the forbiddenness of the Torah it's from the Torah, because the Chacham did not forbid on a goy something that's rabbinical. And the Avnei Nezer also is the opinion that the Rambam says that it's forbidden to let them establish an altar or plant a tree, a Asherah, or to make forms for beauty, is not because you have to destroy idols, because when these are statues, they're not idols, and his words are said only regarding when we are in charge, whether we should permit them to live in Eretz Yisrael, even temporarily until they accept the 7 mitzvahs. And therefore, we don't let them make any forms, lest they go ahead and serve them. And if he doesn't agree, so then he can go live elsewhere. Avnei explains that since the Rambam explains the reason that you shouldn't make a mistake to think that it's idols, therefore he writes, Elihei Kesef, gods of silver. And just like it's forbidden to lead them in their places to serve idols, so it's forbidden to lead them. They should make these forms of beauty that look like idols. Because when we are in charge, and we cannot leave a goy who is an idol worshiper to live in Eretz Yisrael, and we're fearful he will serve the idols.